I'm Karen McBride, cleverly disguised as Christopher this morning. And I'm part of the ILA Marketing Forum. And I want to thank all of you for taking time out of your day. I know how busy we all are right now. And so it's really great of you to come and join us and share your expertise and your experiences and your knowledge with your library marketing professional colleagues. So thanks. So I don't want to waste time talking a lot, but I just want to give you a couple of notes on things. And that is, let's see here. One thing we did last time, and I see some folks are actually doing it already, which is awesome, is putting the name of your library, if you can fit it in after your name here on the screen or in the chat. It's a way for us to get to know each other quickly because it's too big of a group to go around and all introduce ourselves. I'm actually Karen McBride from the Barrington Area Library. But I just find that that's helpful because somebody might hear you speak or see your comments today and want to reconnect with you or want to check out your work on your website or on your social media. So if they know the library that you work for, that'll make it a little bit easier for them. So just something to think about that. If you can't add it in after your name, you can let us know when you have something to say or when you put something in the chat. And then we know we have participants today that are sharing an office or they don't have a camera or may even be working on a public desk. So don't forget to take a look at the chat window so you can see their comments and their questions as well there. We want everybody to feel like they can participate. And I also just want to let you know that the Marketing Forum is meeting next week. And one of really the main thing on our agenda is putting together the virtual version of our annual mini conference, which I'm really looking forward to. It's always one of my favorite, might be my favorite conference of the year, quite honestly. I always learn so much from all of you. So we're going to be putting that together. So watch for an announcement about that coming very soon on date and how to register. So we didn't receive any topics today via email. So what I thought we would do is grab some of the most recent questions that we had on our Facebook group and start with those. Is Tamara here? Tamara Jenkins from ILA?
Yes, I am.
Thanks. Hi.
Hi.
There you are. You are ILA. You aren't just Tamara today. I was looking for your name. So Tamara was kind enough to put together a quick Zoom poll. And I just want to make it clear, we're not saying that any of these ideas aren't worth discussing, but what we thought we would do is put them in a poll and let everybody pick one that they thought was most relevant. That might help us just balance how we talk about them today. The ones that get the most interest we'll start with, and then hopefully we'll still have time to work our way through the list and even get to other things that you might want to talk about. So that's how we're going to begin. So Tamara, is there anything I need to do for you to make that ready to roll?
The poll is live. People are responding.
Thank you.
Okay, and since it's been up for a little bit, I'm going to go ahead and end the poll. So you've got just a couple more seconds to select something, and I'll end it. Thank you.
Okay, so it looks like we've got some results here, and pretty nice mix. But we'll start with the two that have the most, and those are kind of right in the middle. Have you shared positive feedback from patrons with the public? Not just your board or not just your coworkers, but have you kind of formalized a way to share those nice, what we call soft comments at our library with other with patrons or customers? And then we'll also talk about what kinds of videos people might be making. This was from Emily. I know she had a question specifically about teens, but it might be worth talking about video marketing and video programming in general, since we're doing so much of that. So thank you, but we'll keep those other topics open as well. So Who has something to share? I know some of you responded to these questions on the Facebook group too, so don't feel like you have to respond again, but if you'd like to, please feel free to. Who is maybe feels particularly happy with things that they've done to share positive comments, soft comments with their customers, with their users? Anybody? I know we do it in our annual report, which just came out a couple days ago. That's always like a really nerve-wracking moment for me every year, letting that go out and seeing what the board thinks, but it went very well this year. We have put them on our digital screens at times, like pick the same graphic, like a drop quote sort of graphic and put them in there. But who's anybody else done something else? I know Chad shared a really nice template that he uses on the Facebook group. Anyone else got a very clever or unique way that you share those? Do you share them on social media or or okay, well, we can think about that. If you come up with something later, like something besides the things I already mentioned. Oh yeah, go ahead, Shandy.
Yeah, so it's not something we've done. I'm with Illinois Heartland Brew System, but it's something we'd like to do and something I've seen done very successfully. I've seen organizations, particularly Big Brothers and Big Sisters of Eastern Missouri, do shared testimonials that were in the form of Humans of New York. And so they would have a photograph and a quote, and it is so lovely and so effective. And it would always get a lot of shares. It's just, they had really good photos. That was really the key though, really good photos.
I feel like the Oak Park Public Library was doing that for a while, like a Humans of Oak Park kind of campaign. Any other libraries done that? Anybody?
I know Evanston
Let's
had
see.
a
Hollis. Okay.
they had a blog for that, Humans of Evanston or something like that. I don't know if anyone from Evanston is here, but I remember seeing that a lot.
And Hollis said they've done that at Schaumburg.
Oh yeah, way back when we first joined Instagram, we tried that. So we didn't get much traction on it just because we had so few followers on Instagram at the time. But another way we like to share feedback is we encourage, especially for our youth and teen programs, we encourage them to share pictures of what they're doing at home. So like if we have a craft kit that they've picked up, like send us a picture of your craft when you're done, because then we get their positive feedback that we can share with, like, we love the craft, but then we get the picture too, which is nice since we don't have people in our buildings to go around and take pictures right now. And those have been getting a lot of engagement for us on social media because it's a cute little kid craft, everybody likes seeing those. And then we do also put quotes in our, we call it our guide. It's our bi-monthly, was a mailing, is now a monthly digital thing. So we put quotes in there. We have space reserved every time, sort of just at the top of certain pages to include quotes. So those we make sure are there front and center, regular basis.
That's a nice idea. Kathy from McHenry in the chat said that they also plan to share them in newsletters. So that sounds like a really good idea. Sometimes I know newsletter space is sort of hard to come by, but it is a really great, if you got a little corner somewhere, easy thing to drop in. Anybody else? And you don't have to like raise a hand or anything.
Okay.
Just start talking.
So this is Rita from Elmhurst Public Library. We actually do collect user stories, and we have them on our website, although we're kind of in the process of rethinking that. But then we also feature them in our weekly e-newsletter every once in a while. I try to do it at least once a month or so, and then on social media as well. And I kind of mix it up with like user stories, and then we've also asked staff to submit some of their favorite things, and people seem to enjoy that too, kind of like a behind the scenes on collections or services, like what staff wish people knew about more. So
that's a nice twist on that. When we were doing a Humans of BA Library, we were focusing that on the staff. It was more like get to know individual staff members. We always got a very positive response to that, but I really like that idea of letting the staff highlight, maybe hidden gems in the collections or services. So thank you. That's a really good idea. Who else? And Rita did put a link to those user stories in the chat too, from Elmhurst, so thank you. Okay, well, we can seg from that into our next, and then if you think of something later, don't worry about it, just chime in really. I could tell it's morning and it's Friday and we're all a little, we're a little weary. Things are very tiring right now. I am normally very much a night owl, and I've been going to bed around 9:30 every night. I can tell that I have reached my limit. And thank you, Hollis, also posted a link. 21 things to know about your library in 2021. I like that. That's a very clever idea. But we had the question about video marketing and video programming. The question was specifically relating to teens. So we'll start with that. Has anybody done anything that's really been good for connecting with teens over this past, let's say the past year? Teens are the trickiest, aren't they?
I feel like this is kind of a constant, like, chasing our tail sort of a thing. I know, at least as long as I've been in library marketing, which is going on 5 years now, this has been a topic that has been untappable so far. But I did come across an interesting TikTok page from a library, and so I will try to find that, and if I can find it, then I'll put that in the chat somewhere. But I feel like if we want to reach teens, we're going to have to go to TikTok. I just think we're going to have to do it.
It's kind of like how we had to go to Snapchat before, right? And then
Just for a moment, yeah.
That disappeared. That's what's
Yeah.
always, I think, is worrisome. It does feel like a moment. It does feel like as soon as what they're using becomes mainstream enough that the public library says, I need to get on that, the teens go, hey, we're done with this. We'd like to move on now. Because you kind of remind me of my mom, and I don't want to be here. So
exactly.
That's a tough thing, right?
But I mean, I also kind of, all of the teens that I know, and I have one teen that actually works in my department, and the amount of struggle that is happening right now with teens, and if there's any parents in the room, I know and I sympathize with you, and I don't know what it's like to have to be a parent of somebody who's remote learning right now. But I feel like teens, this just might not be the year for us to reach teens, and I think we need to accept that and be okay with it, and plan for the fall maybe. But I feel like teens are bombarded with this and Zoom and everything else digital, that I don't think that anything that we could give them coming from the library would be appealing in any way, shape, or form. And I feel like it's okay to acknowledge that and maybe try to plan as best we can for the fall, but this might just not be the year to connect with teens.
I'm trying to take a approach to highlight what, instead of trying to reach teens, trying to promote the teens themselves. We have a volunteers program that was filled up like almost instantly, like in the first week it was posted, where they got on Zoom and just made hospitals cards for kids at Lutheran General, I think it was, where the cards went. But because it filled up so fast, I thought that was really nice, a nice sign that they want to get together and they want to give back still. And I feel like teens do get a bad rap. So I'm just trying to like steer that message to not, teens come join us, but look to the adults, because I know that teens aren't on Facebook. So on Facebook, I'm talking to the people like me who remind them of their moms. I like that description. Because at least it's something. If not, if we can't reach the teens, at least let's try to talk about the teens that are involved with the libraries, even if it's only like 20 of those.
Our volunteers actually said they prefer to interact with businesses on Facebook, and they think of us as a business. So when we approached them about starting a TikTok for them, they were not interested. They did not want to interact with the adults on TikTok. But they said that they do still have a Facebook, that they use it for their family and for businesses, I guess. So I thought that was a really interesting point from our little group.
Yeah, until 2 years ago, I worked at a synagogue in St. Louis, and I worked with a lot of the teens in the Bar and Bat Mitzvah program, and they all had Facebook accounts and they used them. They just used them differently than they use their TikTok. I also wonder though, if a way for a library to use TikTok wouldn't be necessarily to create their own TikTok page, but to like recruit, some advocates to talk about the library in their own, in their own posts, like influencer marketing, basically.
Yeah, I've always been
Andy.
surprised. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to share, like, most of our teen programming is live on Zoom. So we don't have a lot of video programming, but the one that we do have is we've partnered with a local teen who records a video of himself baking or cooking. I think twice a month he does them for us, and we posted it on our YouTube channel. And it's not wildly popular, but it gets about 60 views, which I'd say is decent for our teen population. So that's been something. It's exactly what you said. It's not us at all. All we do is post it on our channel, and he comes up with what he wants to cook, and he does the whole thing, and we just post it for him. And it's nice that he kind of allows us to use that as content and a way for him to reach other teens in the community. So totally agree. Get your teens on board to help you.
This is Janet over at Flossmore. I don't know if you can hear me, but our staff member in our teen upstairs in our youth services department is doing something similar, where they're doing a video from one of our cookbooks. They're doing it every week and posting it on Facebook. So again, hasn't been wildly popular, but we are getting some views on Facebook and YouTube for that. So they're just taking a recipe from one of our cookbooks and running through it on the video.
I love that idea. Can you share a link?
Sure, I'll share the link in the chat box.
Anyone else? Why is it the minute we talk about library cooking programs, I get hungry? Am I the only person who has that? I think, like, working at home, I'm just hungry 24 hours a day, and I have to just acknowledge that and try to work through it. But the minute that conversation started, I was like, I swear I smell bread in the house, but I don't. Anyone else? I really love that idea, though. I know, like, our high school has, a great video program, and with those students, although they have returned to in-person learning now, or they will next week. That's another possibility, if they've got projects that they would somehow do some marketing for the library. It might be an interesting outreach and partnership with them.
We have had a couple of programs that have done really well. We're doing, on the cooking line, we're doing a micro meals program. So there's a cookbook for things you can make, like you make them in a little cup. And the kids are really into it because I think it's just easy cooking, like making brownies in a mug or making mac and cheese or that kind of thing. So that's been popular. And any hands-on type of thing like kits, I'm sure all of you are doing it, but they're filling up like instantly. I mean, the kids are coming, they're getting their kits, and they're showing up to do these crafts. So I don't know if we just have a weird community, but it's a really intimate, small community because our middle school is right next door, but they seem to enjoy it, maybe just something hands-on as opposed to like staring at a screen. So
it might actually be an interesting idea too, to see if there's any high schools that have DACA chapters. We recently had over at Niles West High School, the high school that serves Lincolnwood and some other communities too, the DACA kids put on a food drive, and they had everything coordinated from when they were going to drop things off. They sent super duper professional emails. It was kind of cute. And then they came and they coordinated literally everything. But I feel like there might be an opportunity to connect with some DACA teachers or advisors that may, and say, hey, we're a library, we're trying to reach teens. This might be a marketing opportunity for your DACA chapter to help us out a little bit, because it would sort of be like a little bit of a service thing too. I may reach out to them and see if they can help us out with that. But if any other communities have high schools with DACA chapters, this might not be a bad idea.
We just worked on a partnership with there's a group that supports the school district, a nonprofit that's sort of connected to them called Be Strong Together. It's very anti-bullying, inclusion, diversity, kind of all those issues, in getting parents and students at every level to talk about issues together and support each other. And we just worked on them with a project called Words Matter. And our piece of it was to create reading lists at every age level that would support, the idea that what you say matters, and trying to get away from name calling and bullying and those kinds of things. That just came to me while I was trying to get to you guys this morning. So I haven't been able to actually look at the list this morning, but I think that that's a nice way of connecting to our teens at this time. It's not a video, but hopefully it's something that says, hey, the library cares about this, and we want to help support you. One thing that was very nice for us this summer, there was a Black Lives Matter protest organized in our community by current students at the high school or alumni of the high school. And it ended up being in the park right next to the library. And we were able to offer the use of our parking lot to people attending that event. And we got some really nice shout outs from that group. Like, if you need to educate yourself, there's a library right over there, and it's great. And I'm telling you that it beats anything, having these young people who are putting this event together that was just beautiful and inspiring and amazing. But to have them recognize the library in the middle of all that was really, it just kind of took our breath away for all of us who attended. So I think, I think the teens right now are so, I shouldn't overgeneralize, but young people are interested in social issues, and they are engaged in those conversations. And I think that might be another way. They need stress relief for sure. They need fun, and they need reading and creativity. But I also think they're the voices that are going to lead us ahead through some of these difficult times. And so there might be a way to reach them in conversations about those issues as well. DECA, thanks. Chris, I had actually thought you were saying DACA too, and tell us what DECA is. So it's business and marketing. Okay, I had a little bit of a different idea of what that group was, but
I totally said DACA, and I didn't mean that. That's a different fantastic program, but
yes.
no. DECA,
Okay.
DE,
Okay.
yes.
Great.
It's I think they have chapters all over the place. I know Judy from Deerfield is super involved with them, I think. I know she was in the past. I don't know if she is still, but it's it's sort of like a little bit of an all-encompassing marketing, business, entrepreneurship, that kind of stuff for teens.
Anybody else got something they'd like to share about marketing for teens?
So something we're going to be starting in February, I think other libraries have done, is called Lit Loot. It's like a subscription box for teens for books. So as Chris mentioned earlier, it's anything video online. I think not just teens, but everyone's a little bombarded and at their limits. So we've really tried to find lots of ways to get tangible hands-on things, whether it's take and make crafts or something like this, and with our summer and winter reading programs. So this is just another example. And it is targeted specifically to teens, and it is limited, but so we're giving it a try. I don't know if anyone else has done it at their library, can speak to it, but I'll put a chat in there for more info. But that's just something we're going to have coming up.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, we have subscription boxes for teens at Schaumburg too. I'll put our link in the chat too.
Thank you. We're just kind of talking about those. We were doing kind of a custom thing called a book bundle, but I know that the team right now is working on kind of age group based ones like that. I think we're going to roll those out next week. So everything's changing every 5 minutes, but it's all good. It's all good creative stuff. So anybody else on a teen focused initiative? Okay, so Shandy's got a question about Nextdoor. Shandy, I'm going to save that for 1 second. I want to go back to one of the Facebook questions that was about and I think this can be quick. It was sort of asking, when it comes to your email marketing, how would you define like a super user? When you send out your regular email marketing campaigns, like who in your mind, how often would they have to open your materials, or what percentage of click-throughs, or anybody got any metrics or any particular way they define that? It's going to probably be really different from library to library. Some I think have very active email users, and some maybe don't use email or use it very little. But anybody got any thoughts on that? And if it's too much to share here, don't forget the Facebook group. You might want to go back and look at Constant Contact or MailChimp or whatever you're using. Take a look at your numbers and then share them on that question there. Oh, thank you. Christina also shared Elmwood Park's teen subscription boxes. So anyway, I'm just going to throw that out there. I'm going to put that question out there. It may be too difficult to answer in this environment, but if you have time later, maybe take a look at your email marketing metrics and see if you can share that with that person via our Facebook group. I know I get asked questions about that a lot by our department heads and leadership, like, well, are people really reading the email newsletter? And I'm always really happy that I've got the numbers to back that up, that it really is one of our most effective marketing tools, at least at our particular library.
So
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Our open rate right now hovers around 20% typically. And right now we're doing some A/B testings to try to figure out what day makes the most sense. So like early in the week, midweek, and then end of the week. Typically I've always found end of the week just never works. People just don't open emails on Fridays. People don't care. They're just checking out. But so far it seems like early in the week seems like the most beneficial, but it's still not really breaking that 20% barrier. And usually those emails are the ones that just show events for the week. So we're not promoting anything specifically all that hard at just trying to make sure that people know what programs are running.
I know MailChimp will actually tell you if particular users are, if they engage with your email often, sometimes, or rarely. I don't remember off the top of my head how they define those metrics. But I really like that, because especially when we have some email problems or someone unsubscribes and I'm like, I wonder if they really meant to unsubscribe. Because sometimes if it's someone I know, I'll reach out to them and I'll be like, hey, did you mean to unsubscribe? And sometimes no, like very often actually, like, no, they won't. And I can tell if they're like someone that often engages, that's someone I might shoot an email to. But you can also, I haven't done it, but you can also target those users with MailChimp with just a click. Like you can target all the often categories or all the rarely category.
Yeah,
the rarely one would be probably a good idea, because this sounds counterintuitive, but if people are on your list and they're just not reading your stuff like ever, it may be beneficial for them and for you to, shoot them an email and say, hey, do you still want to receive these emails?
Yeah, I definitely target most of the emails to the people that have opened a certain number of the last campaigns that we've sent out, or people who have subscribed since the last campaign. That definitely boosts your numbers. It's one of those things where we're playing with numbers, right? Our numbers are now higher because I've made the list smaller. Well, it's a percentage is a percentage, and it's all magic in the end. But I do find that yes, that certainly does boost the numbers. But yeah, then sometimes though, I do make sure that I include those folks who haven't opened more recently, just to say like, hey, we're still here. Here's some really important information. I tend to do that when it's something like when we had to close the building again in November. I want to make sure that I tell as many people as possible, but it also gives them an opportunity to either re-engage with us or to say, oh, I've moved. Why am I still getting these messages? That kind of thing. So you play around. I would definitely say try playing around with those different targeting options, and you might find a nice mix that works for you. So Shandy, you also had the question. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, the time of day seems to matter as well. So I've experimented with that, and I found the evenings are higher opening rate. So we're about 35% open. But if we have a special announcement like a closing, like we just had to reclose because we had a staff member test positive, those will open like almost at 40%. So the subject line, like pay a lot of attention to your subject line. That will, I think, has a big impact on your opening rate. And something else that we have just started doing, like before we were doing, actually before Corona, we were only doing monthly e-blasts. Now we're doing weekly, but we alternate. So one week we're doing like more general, like programs, maybe general announcements. And now we're alternating. We call it our digital spotlight, where since we're so digital heavy right now, we're picking one of our digital services and featuring that, and trying to make the subject line really appealing. Like, for example, we highlighted the great courses in Canopy, because I think that's something a lot of people don't know about, that, and it's you can have unlimited checkout. It doesn't count against your monthly checkouts, and it's just that time of year where people are wanting to learn new things. And so we got a great, and we actually saw like an uptick in our Canopy use. So it's like a direct impact. So that's something that we've been trying, and it seems to work.
Subject lines are so important. Chris has put a link in the chat for a blog post about that. And a few years ago, when I was on a Laconia programming committee, we brought in a speaker who, a Chicago journalist named Charlie Meyerson. He used to be on WXRT. He wrote for the Tribune or worked for the Tribune, I should say, all kinds of things. But he did a long presentation for us just on subject lines, and was able to show us through his work with the Tribune the difference between a good subject line for your email and a not so good one. And he even looked at some of ours and looked at numbers and gave us suggestions. There's just nothing, it's a very small window of space, but picking just the right words. I know one of the things he emphasized was like proper nouns, words that are interesting. And, you don't want to have like your library e-news, that if you have that subject line over and over and over again, there's nothing that makes that jump out for people. So there's a lot of advice out there about that, but it's definitely that kind of A/B testing is also a good idea. Try a couple of different subject lines and see what works. Sometimes it's counterintuitive. Sometimes I think I've come up with something so good, and the really lame one I came up with the previous week gets more opens for whatever reason. Time of day is interesting for us. We have I hate to say an aging population, but they are. I mean, the majority of our users are, I will say, my age or older. I'll be diplomatic. What I find is I send it out at night and they open it and then they register for programs the next day. It's sort of like they get the email, but they're like, I don't want to deal with this right now. I'm watching TV. And then in the morning, whoosh, there's like this flood of program signups from those. So it's hard to predict, but it is kind of fascinating to watch if you're into statistics and measuring your responses. Thank you for posting the Charlie Meyerson piece on here. He loves people to follow him on social media. So follow him on social, make him feel good. We had a question about Nextdoor as well. And that is something I just started dabbling with a couple of months ago because our board was like, Nextdoor, 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 you must be on it. And I keep saying to them, I don't live in the community. So Nextdoor does not want me there as the library's creepy tree house, trying to bust into people's conversations. They can say whatever they want to say about the library. It's what that forum is for. You know, when they kept saying, oh, come up with a fake account. I'm like, no, no, no. They spell it out very clearly. They don't want you doing any of those things. It is not allowed, but you can, the library can have an account as a local business. They make you jump through a lot of hoops to get one. And I would say my results so far have been the same as they are on any other platform. Sometimes people notice your post and sometimes they don't care. It's good to at least put the information about these closings, reopenings, parking lot pickup versus borrow by mail, all the other things you're doing. It's good, I think, to have that information out in as many places as you can. Right, only 3 posts a month, as Lisa posted here. But anybody else using Nextdoor and finding anything of interest there? Maybe you live in the community and it's easier for, because that's another thing our board kept saying to me was, well, so-and-so from the village is always commenting on people's posts. Well, she lives there. So that's okay. She's not doing it as the village. She is doing it as so-and-so, a community resident. I don't live there. So it puts me in a weird place. And I'm not sure I would want to be on there monitoring people's casual conversations about the library every day anyway, but to prove me wrong or tell me about your experiences. Crickets so far.
So I can talk, but we're a little different because, IHLS is one of the library systems. So we're business to business, we're not really business to community. But as a user, I noticed a huge increase in engagement when, shortly after March 17th last year. And there weren't a whole lot of, my town is fairly small. I live in Glen Carbon, which is by Edwardsville, and there's like 12,000 people or so. And, but we do get Edwardsville and Maryville because you tap into the immediate surrounding communities too. And not a lot of businesses were using it, but the ones that were, people were like flocking to them and like sharing their posts. Like there was a dog groomer, because if you remember at the beginning, dog groomers weren't allowed to open, which sounds like it makes sense, but they were using it as an advocacy piece too, because they were saying, like, help us contact, our elected officials because this isn't fair, because this it is, while it's often cosmetic, it's often also like a health thing for the pets. So they educated me about that, and they were selling gift certificates, and I had no idea. I don't have a dog or a cat, and all of a sudden I was sharing their posts. I don't know. So I wish I would have loved to have seen my local library on there, even with just the 3 posts a month saying, hey, this is what's changing. We're now open for curbside. We're now closed, whatever. I think it's a really great opportunity to have a business account. And if you live locally, you're right, there's even more opportunity if you live locally, because then you can comment, as yourself. But even then you have to be careful, because you can't say, well, I guess for libraries, they'd probably be more lenient, but if it was a business can't just post to the main feed as a person, or they'd get flagged and the items would be removed. So you can't say like, we're, Sam's Pizza, we're open now. That would get taken down. Yeah, that would have to be posted from a business account. But I see a lot of opportunity there.
We in Lincolnwood inherited a Nextdoor account for the library that was actually a person one, and then I never transitioned it into a business one after that because of the restrictions on permissions. For things like, I want to be able to comment on a post if somebody says something weird about the library. I just want that ability. But like the Nextdoor over here is like missing cat, missing dog. How do I find a dentist? And then an angry post about something weird, and then missing cat, missing dog. And so we don't do much with that. We tried events because they have the event calendar that you can post to. We tried all that stuff and we just didn't see a ton of success with it. So I just go on there every once in a while just to kind of see what the chatter is in the community, just so I know what is coming in the pipeline as far as like what the school is doing, what the village is doing. Usually it has nothing to do with the library, which is totally fine, but it's just kind of nice to keep a little bit of an extra pulse on what's going on around us.
I will say that I am grateful to our employees that live in the next door range of the area, who let me know if there is some great misunderstanding happening on there about a particular library service or how things are working during the pandemic. Because by them telling me, I can at least do an extra push to clarify that piece of information. Maybe I can't address it specifically to that resident, but I can make sure that, okay, people don't understand that parking lot pickup is open and it's 7 days a week and it's really easy to use. So I appreciate when they come in and say, okay, I know you're not going to want to hear this, but but I do want to hear it, right? And I think that's been one of the hardest things, is letting the staff know, that we're sorry when they get beat up by people, right? You know, when they're just trying to do their job and they get the angry person on chat, or when they bring them their books outside. But to say it's okay to give us that feedback, please give us that feedback, because we need to know what the message people aren't getting, or what their frustrations are, to see if there's ways that we can help them, we can create something new, we can answer their questions in a different way. So I know nobody likes the negative feedback, but it can be helpful. We're all learning as we go right now, right? Are there any other topics? Does anything come to mind while we were talking today, or a question that you might have? You can put it in the chat. You can say it out loud.
I had a quick question to go back to the email. Unfortunately, I missed part of that because I had to step away. But is it more important to reach people that you haven't reached in a while and still try to reach out to them? Because we've been doing the thing where you are just opted in automatically. We've kind of changed our thing, but our numbers have gone way down. So it's gone from, say, 40 to 35 open rate to now 25 open rate, which is kind of a big drop. But when you're adding so many more people, it's like, well, you're reaching more people in a way, but only maybe 1 or 2 or 3 of those people. So what's more important?
We
I
did
think that
talk
really
about,
just depends on your goals.
yeah.
So if you don't care about the numbers, the open rate numbers, the click numbers, then, and your goal is to try to reach more people, then it's good to keep them opted in.
I think you have to consider both getting people on your list, but also keeping people on your list, because if they're just opting out right away, then you're not really reaching them. And I think you might want to look at the current regulations, because like in Illinois, I don't recall if Illinois you're allowed to do like the automatic opt-in, but I know in California you cannot, and that doesn't affect us necessarily, but it's still a good practice. And that could easily become the law here as well. It's just something I think about sometimes. Now, that being said, we do like an automatic opt-in. We're also business to business, so it's a little bit different for us.
I think that one of the things we talked about earlier on this topic was that maybe your weekly programming email goes to those folks that are opening more frequently or that are new joiners. But there's no harm in occasionally reaching out to the folks who aren't opening, just to give them the opportunity, just to say, hey, we're still here. Of course, unsubscribe if you don't want to hear from us anymore, but here's what we're doing, here's what's new, here's a service update, that kind of thing. I think experimenting around is probably your best option, because if they're still in your community, if they're still library users, you'd like to keep them engaged, but often they've moved away, or change jobs, something like that, and the emails just aren't relevant. I've also found, and is this not true, that you can read email without opening it, depending on how you have, I'm not right? You see a preview window and you can actually read much of the content of an email without ever opening it. And I've often wondered how many people just kind of skim it that way and go, oh, okay, well, good to know. So, give yourself a little extra boost for anybody who just looks in the preview window.
Yeah, that's interesting you say that. And MailChimp actually points out that the rates for, I think for Apple devices are going to be higher than, they're going to be deceptively high. Like you should assume that they're lower. I think it was Apple devices. Don't quote me on that. Go look yourself if you use MailChimp. But just because the preview window in some devices automatically, not devices, software, applications automatically counts that as an open, and then other ones don't. And I think Apple does.
Very interesting. Thanks. Check that out.
Thank
Hi,
you for that.
I'm Mandy Russell from Lake Forest Library, and I just wanted to mention when you were talking about the opt-in stuff, we were recently going over our e-newsletter, and we reached out to people to let them know that hadn't opened in a while. And we had some people unsubscribe, but a lot of them still stayed. And then with the opt-in thing, we were concerned. We've been making a lot of web forms over this time. We've been home, whether it was care package or what have you. And we made a change to a lot of them to always add in a choice for our e-newsletter. So it's always on our homepage, but we put it there and we just give them the option to opt in there or say, yes, I already subscribed, and we make it a required question. So at least they're answering us. And we've gotten some new signups from that strategy. So just wanted to throw that in there.
That's great. Thanks, Mandy. I noticed that when I donate to certain organizations, even though I donate to them all the time, they'll still say, do you want to get our e-news? And it's smart. It makes sense.
Do most of you do a resend to non-openers when you schedule your e-newsletter?
I don't do it every time. It depends on what that email is about.
Sounds good. Same here. Like if it's a really important email for some reason, then I'll do that. I'd say usually we don't, but I definitely do use it.
All right, no problem. Bye-bye.
I don't want to neglect Fran's question, but if you think of more about email, we can always go back to it. But Fran in River Forest has a new director. Congratulations. And has the job of introducing that director to the community during these very unusual times. And she was wondering about possibly making a video. And if any of you have done anything like that when you've been introducing a new executive director or board member or anyone like that, and if you have any suggestions or maybe some samples that you could share with her. I will point out to this group, I guess it's public knowledge, we'll be having a new director soon as well. We just got the news that ours is resigning a couple days ago, so I'm going to be interested in this conversation as well.
So slightly different. We had our director started in last December. So December 2019, she started and then was barely in her role and the world exploded. So we had done sort of all the standard stuff with press release and, included it in our email and social media and all that good stuff. And then we hadn't really had a chance to do any video stuff. So we just kind of, since it was such a lag on our end, we just sort of dove right in. With her. I think it wasn't until Library Card Month, unfortunately, but she did a really nice video for us. And so it wasn't necessarily to introduce her, but it put her face out there and, had the little tag at the bottom that she's the director. So we did that. And then we also recorded a video of her reading a picture book that we shared. We, there's limitations with that where you have to take it down and everything, but she had chosen one that was really special because her grandma wrote it. So that was nice to have that tie-in for her. But I think that's just another really human connection point. So those are the couple videos that we did. Nothing groundbreaking, and the timing definitely wasn't perfect, but at least we got her face out in front of people even though we weren't always open.
I know Indian Trails had their library director do sort of a welcome back to the building when they reopened, after the initial stages of the pandemic. So you might want to take a look for that as well. It's Brian Shepard at Indian Trails. I'm sure it's probably still on the internet somewhere, but he did a nice job. In my experience with video, things like that is, we used to make them very kind of formal, and I bring in a big company, and I would just say, like, don't do anything like that. I think the more human and down to earth and warm that you can make it, especially at this time, the better. Let people speak in their own voice, so to speak, using their own kind of vocabulary, so people are really getting a sense of learning who they are. I'm wondering about, maybe you could include, it depends on the director, right? Some are more open about why I love libraries, or my childhood library was so inspiring to me, or this was my favorite book as a kid. Those kinds of things might make for a warmer, friendlier experience if you have the kind of director that's comfortable with those things. And I know some really don't want to include any personal details about themselves. They keep it all business, but others are more willing to share those things that I think might make for a more interesting video, quite honestly. Anyone else just have a director that likes being a video spokesmodel? We used to call them spokesmodels back in the day of, what was that program called? Star Search. I auditioned for Star Search, so I can tell you all about it. But has anybody had any good luck with just getting your director to be a little more out there? Directors are fascinating to me. Some of them are so extroverted, and some are just like, nope, I don't want my picture in the thing. I don't want to write a regular piece for you. Just leave me alone and you do the marketing. But anybody got an extroverted director out there who's always wearing a funny hat and wants to sing a song in a video or anything?
Wouldn't that be the dream, to work for somebody like a Michael Scott? Oh my gosh. Like, just the content that you would always have if you had that in your life.
Fresh material every day.
Every single day. Like,
I don't know that I'd want to work for Michael Scott.
Probably not. No, probably not. But
good for reaching teens on TikTok, I think.
There you go. Yeah. We've expanded more with getting more staff on camera. We've done a couple of videos now that Seth is edited for us. But I think my director was involved in the first one, not the second one. But usually if you give people something to do, and they don't have to think about like a script, or they don't have to think about being super formal, just to kind of piggyback off of what Karen said, we play to their personality and keep it super duper informal and more I guess personalized. The two videos that I'm referring to, the first one was a weird and wacky soda taste test, which is an annual program that we do in person for kids. But since we didn't have kids in the building, we had our staff check or taste these weird and wacky soda flavors, which there are some very weird and wacky soda flavors. And then the second one was this sort of like collection recap for 2020. It actually just debuted yesterday, but one of our new head of information services came up with this long list of questions about like the top picks for, like, I think one of them was the most popular board book and the most popular library thing item and the most popular nonfiction, like topics like that. But you really get to see people's personalities when they have to guess some of these questions and they don't know. And it sort of was a nice prompt to get some personality from our staff in front of the public that, they haven't seen much of in the past 9 months.
Yeah, kind of along the same lines. So no luck with the director on camera, but in terms of video content and getting staff faces out there, we've been doing something since the pandemic started, what we're enjoying Wednesdays. And we encourage staff from any department, anyone is able to submit just a quick clip of whatever they're binging on, whatever they're enjoying. And I have to say, especially when we were primarily working, like our library is actually open right now. not everyone, it's not like normal times, but when everybody was working at home and the library was closed, we had awesome submissions, and people from all over the building loved sharing that. And we really had a really nice, diverse offering. And the public loves to know what we're reading. I mean, I think that's like a really great point of engagement with folks. So we're going to be doing it bi-weekly now, just because I think there's more stuff happening and more video content that's available right now. And frankly, staff submissions have kind of slowed. We have like a steady stream from a handful of folks, but the public loves it. So, but we're enjoying Wednesdays.
Where are you posting those? Is it on your website or social media?
It's YouTube.
YouTube.
Yeah. So elmlib.org/YouTube.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So we're at an hour, which is technically, I think, our magic time to sign off. But does anyone else, I'm going to go back to our poll. I keep closing it. I do know there was a question on Facebook, and this is another thing. I'll just ask you to go back to the Facebook group to. There was a question about which content management system you use for your library's website. So if you want to share that, maybe pop over to Facebook sometime today and put your response in there. Oh, the donor walls. Hollis, I think you're still here, right? I think that was your question. They're talking about updating their donor wall at Schaumburg, and they were wondering if anyone's done anything really particularly clever or engaging. And I think especially something that will not require moving the earth when it needs to be redone or added to or edited in some way. So does anybody have any outstanding examples of a donor wall at their library?
You know, I don't have a picture to show, but at that synagogue that I mentioned I work with, we had a really big screen, and it was semi-dynamic. It had a few pages on it. It was like something that could be set up in Microsoft Display, or like I don't know what to compare it to, but one of the pages was donors, and you could, click a button, it would take you to the donor page, and they would all be right there. And for some of the really big donors, they even included like links to videos where that person was talking about, what the community meant to them. And it was super easy to update because it was digital.
We have a wall in our garden. I mean, this is a little more involved than a digital donor wall, but we have a seat wall that was built, and it's got like spots for plaques that actually our foundation runs it, and people can buy them and then put commemorative plaques. And they've been surprisingly just going really well. Like the big ones are like $2,000, and people are actually buying it. So it's a little more permanent, but you could do something physical like that, maybe with a smaller like idea inside the building.
Of all places, I know I saw sort of like a crazy room, wildly colorful one at the, I don't have the name quite right, but it's the Mascot Hall of Fame, I believe, in Whiting, Indiana. So that was sort of an unexpected place to see that kind of thing, but they really did it up. I remember taking some pictures of it, like, wow, I could see a library doing that, because it was, how do I explain this? It was not symmetrical in any way. Like it was a colorful design, but you could have added information to it just about anywhere on the wall. So, maybe that's one thing to think about, is not having it be, really rigid where, oh, now we've got to insert this name alphabetically. How do we get it in with all these pieces? We don't have it. We really don't have anything like that. And I feel sort of embarrassed about it. But that must have just been a decision that was made somewhere along the line at our library. Anyone else? Even if you don't have something to add about it today, maybe you've got a photo in your files at work and you could share those again on the Facebook group. Just look for Hollis's question there. And she'd probably appreciate that. Or if you've seen one somewhere else at a museum. I was quickly searching the American Writers Museum because I swore that I'd seen something like that there when I visited, but that was a couple of years ago. I didn't spot anything right away, but sometimes we can get great ideas from our partners in things like museums and other nonprofits. Well, I think if it's okay with everyone, maybe this is a good place to wrap up for today. Thank you. I thought this was a great conversation. We wandered down many a path, and yet I think we had good ideas and suggestions. I shouldn't say we, you did, had great suggestions and ideas for a lot of folks here. So I appreciate that. Don't forget the Facebook group. Those questions come in, even if you check on it once a week, maybe you might be able to be just the answer that someone's looking for out there, or just they have just the right example for them. So again, we will be discussing a mini conference soon, an online virtual mini conference. So please watch for details on that. We were all so sad that we could not have last year's mini conference, because I just want to tell you, it was the best lineup of speakers and topics, and we were really excited. So I think we're going to still try to get some of those people back, but maybe also tweak things to the way things have changed for libraries over the last year. Anyone else need to add anything or have a question or a comment before we sign off and head into the weekend? Well, it's really great seeing you, hearing from you, talking with you. So please take care, and we'll do it again soon, okay? And thanks again to Tamara Jenkins from ILA for all the help she gives to the marketing forum. She is amazing. Great. Bye.
Bye, everyone.